Hey, welcome to my channel. My name is Joy Elizabeth, and I come on here and I share with you all kinds of things about my embroidery journey and the things that I'm learning, and I try to teach you how to do it as well. So today we're going to be working on some hats. Now, maybe you're new to embroidery and you have no idea where to start, but you bought this machine because you want to do hats. I did too. I was working on a Brother single needle machine, and I started, word kind of got out that I could do it, and I was getting some requests for doing shirts and sweatshirts and some business things, and that was all fine and good on a single needle machine. But then people started wanting hats. Yeah, a hat like this actually would be pretty easy to accomplish. I say easy. It's definitely doable because it's a unstructured hat. So you could probably accomplish something like this on a single needle machine, but if you are doing a lot of them, it's probably time to upgrade to a multi-needle machine. So that's where I was. I was working on a single needle machine, and that's kind of what made me jump into the multi-needle embroidery and get my first BAi machine, because I wanted to do hats. And let me just be completely transparent with you. It was a struggle in the beginning, and lots of tears, lots of late nights, just lots of frustration, because I thought I can do this on a single needle machine, because I was, mind you, I was flattening out some of even the structured hats. I've got a couple examples here. This isn't one that I would have flattened out. I'll pop a picture in of one of the hats I did on my single needle machine. I would not recommend it. I would not recommend it. It really kind of deforms the structure of the hat when you try to flatten it onto a single needle machine. But my point is, I had felt so accomplished because I was able to do this on my single needle machine. It wasn't easy. It's not recommended, but I could do it, right? So when I jumped into the multi-needle machine and I was trying to do these hats, and I kept breaking needles, and it just wasn't stitching out well, and I was just so frustrated, and I couldn't understand, if I can do it on a single needle, why can't I do it on a multi-needle? There is a learning curve. It's not the same. Working on a single needle is not always going to be the same as working on a multi-needle. And maybe you're coming because you own your own boutique and you want to start making your own hats or something. Maybe you're coming from a more of a business standpoint, and you think getting this machine is just going to make it so quick and easy to do hats. There's a learning curve, and you need to take the time to learn how to do it correctly. You need to take the time to learn what works for you, because what works for you may not be what all of the other influencers are doing. It may not be what all the other embroiderers are doing. You have to learn the tips and tricks that are going to work for you for doing hat embroidery. So I'm not trying to scare you, but I'm trying to explain to you, because what I see so much in this industry and in this embroidery world are so many people coming into the multi-needle machine world, and then they end up trying to sell their multi-needle machines because it didn't work out, because they couldn't figure it out, and they just get frustrated and they give up. I don't want you to give up. I want you to learn how to do this. I want you to learn how to do it correctly. So I'm going to do my best to walk you through at a beginner level. We're not going to get into crazy doing the Richardsons and all of that. I'm going to show you examples of hats that I've done so that you can see that it can be accomplished. But today we're going to be working on beginner hats, and we're going to talk about all of that. So let me pull you down, let me pan you around to my table and to all of the different hats, and let's just talk a little bit first about the different styles of hats that you may want to work with. All right, so I have a few different style hats here. Let's just talk really quick, and hopefully I can do this quick, about the different types of hats. You've got two categories. You've got structured and unstructured hats. But within your structured hats, you have a lot of variation in style and brand. And I would say level of structuredness, level of thickness to the structure and whatnot. And then even in the unstructured hat, again, it would be the same thing. You've got different levels and categories of unstructured, but at its core, we have two different, we've got structured or unstructured hats. So today I am going to walk you through embroidering two styles. Technically, we are going to be doing a structured, this would be a structured hat, I think by definition, but it's a very soft, cheap, this is the kind of hat, if you're a beginner, that I want you to start with. This is an indicator it's cheap. It's got a Velcro back. And I did not purchase this hat. My customer provided these hats. I'm doing a non-profit, pro bono. It's a nonprofit that's dear to our heart, and my daughter was actually a participant in it for a time. So I'm doing these completely free. I'm donating my time and my embroidery to them. So she provided the hats. So I'm not really sure where she got them from, but I've gotten similar hats like this from Amazon. I will put a link in the description below to a hat that is similar to this style in my description that you could pick up a bunch of them and just practice on. These would be a great beginner hat because it is technically structured. Technically, we've got the glued in or whatever, the interface that gives it that structure, but you can even see there's some deformity here. And I may, if you have a hat press, you can press this just to kind of help smooth it out. I may hat press some of them that are a little deformed, but it's not 100% necessary. You could still embroider them without. I did 12 of them yesterday. Some of them I pressed, some of them I didn't. So don't worry if you don't have a hat press. You might see me use it today, but don't worry if you don't have it. You can still do these hats. Okay, so technically, this is a structured hat, but one that would be much more doable and easier than your Richardson 112s. Oh my goodness. Please, if you're a beginner, please don't start with these. I don't know what it is about these hats, but they are very difficult to stitch. Obviously, the quality is so much better. I mean, we can just see the quality is so much nicer, better. It's your Richardson 112s. I mean, they are top of the line. But I do believe that, I'm not even sure, like there's also, I'm not a hat person, my husband is, there's like levels of deepness as well to a hat, you know, and I feel like the Richardson is not a very deep hat. Like you look at this hat here, look at the deepness, if you will. Okay, I'm sure there's a technical term that I'm not, like I said, I'm not a hat person. So this one obviously has a much taller front than this one. Okay, so I'm not sure if it's that. I'm not sure what it is, but the Richardsons are a difficult, this would be if we're looking at a scale from a structured hat, this would be at the bottom and this would be at the top. You know what I'm saying? And then you've got your 6-panel Richardson 112 and you've got your 5-panel Richardson 112s, which would be maybe a little bit easier to embroider because it doesn't have that middle seam. Work your way up to these. Learn how to do hat embroidery first. Please, please, please do not start with your Richardson 112s. They're absolutely doable, but you need to know what you're doing before you start on those. That's my opinion. Take it for what it's worth, okay? So anyways, these cheap hats are great. And then because they're so cheap, if you mess up a few, no big deal, right? No big deal. I think some of these, depending on where you get them from, you're running like $10 to $12 per hat. These you can pick up for like $1 per hat, maybe something like that. Okay, so this is technically structured. Okay, and then there's just different, there's all kinds. There's these snapbacks. This is like an off-brand, but technically it's a structured, but that would probably be a better brand to work on. I've got the game hats I've done. Quite a few of those. There's this one, which is nvcaps.com. I'm not sure. I think I got it from Epic Sports. This one is similar in, I think, style to a Richardson, but it's not a Richardson. And this one, I wouldn't jump into this one first, but it's an off-brand of a Richardson. But you can find yourself some off-brands of Richardsons, and they're great options as well. This one's just a Hobby Lobby cheapie. Technically, I guess this one would also be structured because it has that interfacing there. But it's a very floppy See, I can just like smush it around. Like it's a very, I'm probably ruining it, very floppy hat. This would be another great option to start. This is a very dense stitch out that I had specifically digitized for hat embroidery. Especially if you're going with any kind of a custom logo, make sure that you have it digitized correctly for hats. And also on that, with the BAi embroidery machine, I'm not sure if you're working on a BAi embroidery machine or not. I work on BAi embroidery machines. Do not go higher than 2.24. 2.25 inches tall is the absolute max that you can go. If you go any taller, I've tried it, because a lot of, especially if you get things digitized and you just tell them, I want I want this done for a hat, but you don't specifically tell them what size. What I've noticed is that a lot of times they just do 2.5. And then I ran into all of these problems and I kept blaming the machine. And I'm like, what is wrong? What is wrong? What is wrong? This machine is messing up. And then come to find out, even though I told my digitizer it's for hat embroidery. So I'm like, well, it's not the design because I had it digitized for hats. Yes, but it wasn't digitized correctly. It was too tall. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. So a lot of times what I see is people blame the machine, and it's not always the machine's fault. Sometimes it's the design. 2.25. Do not go taller than 2.25. And you'll know when you trace it out. If you see this hat going like this, hello, too big. Go smaller. Sorry, it's just like a pet peeve of mine because I see a lot of people blaming things and it's user error. It's because you didn't know. But that's what I'm here. I'm here to try to educate you. Okay, so that would be a good hat. That, and as you also seen, some of it's off registration, and that's because this is such a dense stitch out. I did do it also on a decky hat. This one's better than that one actually even. And this is it's still a softer structure, but it's a little bit more structured and it's stitched out much better. So again, you got to know what you're working with. So anyway, but it did. This was my practice. This was my practice before I stitched it out on my nice Dicky hats. Dicky? I don't know. I pronounce everything wrong. You guys can correct me later. Before I wanted to go stitch it out on these nicer hats, more expensive hats, I used a cheapy hat from Hobby Lobby. So that's actually why I even have it on this hat at all. But it's a great option. So even I will do practice stitch outs and stuff. So make sure you're practicing your design before you touch your more expensive hats, okay? So just, even if you go to Goodwill and you see some cheap hats, or you go to the dollar store and you see some cheap hats, just pick up a few for practice. Okay, so that's talking about structure. This was again a cheapy hat. It has some bleach stains on it. This was just a practice. Okay, so just someone donated it to me, so I just practiced on it. Get yourself some practice hats. Okay, then we're going to talk a little, so you've got your structured, and you've seen there's different levels. Now we've got our unstructured hats. Unstructured hats have no kind of interface or structure inside of them. None, okay? This one is like an Adams. It's an off-brand of an Adams hat. I believe I got it from Jiffy, maybe? Or maybe got it from Jiffy. I'm not sure. So I've done a few of these. This one looks structured only because it's still got its cardboard inside. Unstructured hats. Great for simple designs. You see I have some simple designs on these. Great for that. This one was a mistake. I actually had to run to Hobby Lobby and get another one. The customer provided this hat and she wanted the WC, and I thought, okay, great, I'm going to use this cool font that I have. This was not the right font for this style hat. Not my machine's problem. This was a user error. I should have known this was too dense of a stitch out for this style hat. It got all kinds of wonky and shrunk, pulled in on itself and all of that. So we learn. We learn. I was out the cost of this hat because I had to go buy actually, these are from Hobby Lobby. It's $5.99. Now, you know at Hobby, their price on the tag is not always the same as, their sale price. Their sale price, right? So it's because I got it from Hobby, it was more expensive because I went straight there. But you can pick up some hats like this in bulk and stuff on Jiffy or Epic or, you know, Epic Sports or something like that. But anyways, I had to go replace it. I'll pop in a picture of it. Why I ended up doing a 3D font still, but not this dense stitch out, not this dense like textured snake style, okay? I ended up doing a more simple 3D puff. It was wonderful. The customer loved it. She gets lots of compliments on it, so it all worked out. But just know what your design is going to do, you know? If you're working on an unstructured hat, I would not do a dense design. Because the way that your hat is hooped, there's not a lot to hold it on all sides. So there's some movement, at least the way I hoop it, and you may hoop it differently. But I'm going to show you my process today. Okay, this also technically is an unstructured hat, this decky hat. But they put this little extra like mesh sweatband in there to kind of give it a little structure. And actually there's probably a little tiny bit of interfacing, but not much. When I did this one, this is actually a mistake. I made this for my husband. He didn't like it. It's fine. Because I stitched that in there, there was a little bit of puckering down here. So the next hat I did, I just made sure I pulled that back to stitch it out. But technically, this is an unstructured hat as well. A little bit different than these. So, you know, style is going to vary between your two categories, but basically you've got two categories. So what we're going to do today, we're going to do this one, which is technically a structured hat, but it's, you know, one of the cheap ones, and that's fine. I'm going to show you how we hoop this up, and we'll maybe talk about some tips of things that you would maybe want to try with a more structured, like something like this. I would steam this or press this 100% of the time. I know some embroiderers don't. And that's fine. They found what worked for them. What works for me is steaming it or pressing it before I hoop it. So we'll talk a little bit about that, but I'm going to show you how I do this one. And then my daughter is super excited about softball. She just started playing softball this year. So I thought this would be a great opportunity to try this softball design. Okay, so if you're overwhelmed with all of this talk about designs and digitizers and making sure that it's the right, you know, design for your hat and all of this, or even trying to do it yourself, and you're like, I don't know about all that. That just seems like a lot. It is. And you know, you don't have to start there. It's okay. So what I'm doing today is I actually went to Etsy and I got this design from Etsy so that with thinking of you in mind, thinking of my daughter, I'm like, okay, well, I need to make a hat with everybody that they could go and purchase a design, because I'm not comfortable enough in my own personal digitizing to be selling or offering my designs to anybody. Okay, I'm fine doing them for myself, tweaking things and all of that, but I'm not at a place where I'm comfortable enough selling mine. So I'm like, I need a design that you, the viewer, can purchase yourself and be able to try this, so that I'm not just throwing you out to the wind and being like, okay, go figure it out. No, I want to try to set you up for success. I haven't used this one yet, so we're going to do this together. So hopefully I'm setting you up for success. But I went to Etsy and I just typed in hat embroidery designs. And then so I'm like, okay, but I also want something that we can use as a family, whatever. So my daughter's really into softball right now. She's excited about it. She wants I think she's more excited about like looking cute as like a little softball player. She's 8 years old. Bless it. So anyway, so I thought she's going to be thrilled if she comes home from school and she's got a new hat, a softball hat. I would have made it for myself, except my son's in t-ball too, and I couldn't find a design with a softball and a baseball design for a hat. I mean, I found designs, but not for hat. So anyway, so we're going to try this today on this unstructured hat. This one's actually from Walmart. So it's got the nice little buckle back. It's super cute. So we're going to give this a try today. So I'm going to do 2 hats with you today. We're going to do an unstructured and a structured, but you know, I'm trying to show you beginner. Let's start with some easy hats, okay, before we jump into Richardson's. And I have other videos on hats that I've done, and you can check those out, and maybe I'll do a more beginner style video of doing a Richardson one day. But today we're going to be doing these cheapy hats, okay? So let's jump into how we're gonna hoop up. We're gonna start with the Hooves to Freedom one because I got a lot of these that I gotta stitch out, 12 of them that I gotta stitch out today. So let's get this hooped up. All right, so with your multi-needle embroidery machine, you're gonna have, most of them I believe come with your hat hoop and your hat driver. Let me grab the other hat driver just to show you. Okay, so this is for my older, and it's a little dusty. This is for my older BAi embroidery machine. They've changed the style a little bit for the newer one, but this would be what you're going to put on your machine. This bar has, it goes in this way. You got your screws here, and this you're gonna pop on your machine and screw these on. As you're placing it, you need to make sure that this is spun up, and then you put it on your machine. And maybe you have a different embroidery machine. I'm not gonna show you how to install it, but I just wanted to point out this is what you're going to be putting on your machine that your hat hoop is going to attach to. This one does not go to this one. They're not interchangeable. This is the old version. But the other one's already installed, so that's why I want to show you. So this is the hoop though, okay? I use, for all of my hat embroidery, I use like a medium weight tearaway stabilizer, and I use it on the big roll, okay? I'll roll it out, and then I cut it into thirds. I just fold it and cut it down into thirds so I get these strips. You can buy a roll of hat stabilizer if you want to. And then I've also seen where people will only put a little piece of stabilizer. No way. That's, again, you gotta find what works for you. Let me show you what works for me. These are actually stabilizer bars, so I use them for what I believe they're intended for. We're going to stabilize. We're going to add the stabilizer right to them, okay? So I just place the stabilizer around, and don't worry if it doesn't look pretty and perfect, okay? And then we clip. You want to get it kind of tight. Okay? And you clip it on. You're at least with the BAi embroidery machine, they come with the clips. I don't know what machine you're working with, but I would assume that they're all going to come with clips. Okay, and then this is the part that goes around the hat and clamps in. Let me show you one without stabilizer on it really quick. Okay, what you want to do when you're hooping your hat, you're going to want, or you're going to have the tendency, at least I did, this is me maybe, to push the hat down all the way and then get this all the way down here and clip it in. Okay, great. You've pushed your hat all the way down, but now look at all this metal. I don't know what it is about the newer version, sorry. The old version had, this is my older version, so you may have a different version. I don't know what machine you're working on again. It has like this hook there, right? So that kind of like help make sure that the bar, mine's really loose, was in the right spot, I guess. Anyways, what I found when I got to this newer, the newer version of the Mirror machine, it doesn't have that anymore, which is fine. But that means I have to be cautious and know you want these hooks to line up with those hooks, okay, when you clip it. Because what's going to happen is when you're going to stitch it, if you've got this, if you've got your bar going across, you know, the bottom of your hat, but you've got metal sticking up on the inside that you're not maybe even seeing, when you go to stitch out your letters, your needle's going to hit that metal and going to snap. And I'm talking out of experience. I'm not just telling you because, oh, I think this is what, I'm talking out of experience. I thought, because, you know, and that's the other thing too, is not every machine may be different. And even in the same brand of machine, I've gone from the old version to the new version, and they've tweaked things and changed things, and I had to relearn. So we have to learn as we go, okay? So anyways, so you want to make sure that these grooves are not, just trying to do it the wrong way, okay? We want to make sure that they're not sticking way out, because then if you're trying to get your design as close to the, if you're trying to get your design as close to the bottom as possible, you're going to be breaking needles. So make sure that things are lined up correctly. So let me show you. Let's get this hat hooped, okay? So we've got our stabilizer on here. Let me spin you around. All right, hopefully I got you at a good angle here. Let me pull my chair around. All right, so this is also comes with the BAi embroidery machines. If you're getting one of them, this is the station. Now, and again, sometimes they're facing you, sometimes they're facing the other way, where you'd be putting the hat on this way. Again, the old version, it was facing the other way. The new version, it faces this way. So maybe your machine faces a different way. But basically, what the purpose of this is, you attach it to your surface or your whatever, and it's going to help us hoop things. Okay, so this becomes the stationary station that we're gonna be hooping our hat. So then you know this part just kind of slings off to the side. All right, so here's our hat. Now, I'm not going to steam or press it this time, because I want you to see if you don't have these things, you know, what do we do? I do have my press over here, my hat press. I didn't buy it for pressing the hats before I hoop it. I bought it to press patches on, but then I've since adopted to just using it for this, because it's worked out great. Okay. Shoo. We're gonna pull the band down, okay? And I'm gonna unclip, unhook. If it's a fitted hat, well, there's nothing you can do about it. If it's not fitted, I always open it up, okay? And then we're gonna pull our sweatband down. The other thing too is, because this is a cheapie, it's very easy to pull down and it's very flat. I just put away all my hats. Well, poo. With, like, for instance, your Richardson, the band is stitched in thicker, nicer, whatever. So when you pull it, there can be some bulk in here. You want to minimize as much bulk as possible when you're stitching out a hat, which is also why steaming or pressing your hats has kind of come about, right? Because we're trying to get this super flat. These hats, these cheapies, they are already super flat, not a problem. But if, and I often do on the Richardsons or a more structured hat, I will take my iron and I have a steam setting on mine, so I will, right? And I'll just come in here, can you see? Steam it. While it's still warm, I pull it out and I just kind of like use pressure and pull it out, that band, you know, and so I might use the steam to do that to help flatten it out, okay? Now again, like I said, I'm telling you things in case you're working on a hat that is, maybe you are here and you want to work on a Richardson right away. Power to you. Let me try to tell you some tips, okay? But today, these ones don't need steam. We can do these ones just by, and that's why, again, I think these are easier, better, for beginners, because you don't have to do all those extra steps, okay? So the other thing I want to point out is there's this little clip, I guess, or doesn't really clip anything in, but I do try to put my sweatband underneath this little lip, okay? And it also has a line for straight to make sure your hat is straight. We're gonna talk about that in a second, okay? So you just pull your sweatband down and try to tuck it under all those parts. Under, I said. Wiggle, wiggle. Okay, there we go. It's under. Okay, same thing on the sides. You might need to tuck it under the clip part, and I kind of hold it with one hand. Come over here, check this side, same thing. And you're gonna wanna try to, with your eyes, just make sure it's all straight. Now, I'm coming around with my clip, and I'm making sure my clip nestles, those claws kind of nestle or grab right on to that seam. And then I get the clip, I don't tighten it, I just get the clip in there, okay? Now that the clip's in there, I can still move things around, okay? So the other thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna feel for those underneath claws like I talked about to make sure that the hat isn't pushed down like this. If the hat's pushed down like this, we're gonna break needles, okay? So we wanna make sure it's not pushed down all the way, okay? So I can feel that my clips are lined up where they need to be. Here's the other thing. You can use your center of your hat and try to line it up with the center of that. It's gonna pull. So you could offset your hat this way, so when you pull it and it pulls the hat, then it's right on center. Honestly, don't worry about it. Sorry, shaking. Okay, so here's the center of my hat. Here's the center of the hoop. It's off a little bit. It's okay. We're just gonna find center with our machine, and it'll still stitch out fine. You do not need to worry if it's not perfectly on that center. Okay, so then again, I'm coming in here. I'm feeling to make sure my little claws, making sure these underneath claws are lined up. And I know, like, sometimes when you're watching videos or shorts and you see, and you've even probably seen some of my shorts, and you just see me clipping and doing, because we cut out a lot of the extra steps, okay? We're making it look fast and easy. It's sometimes we need to take time. So just make sure that all of this is lined up. You can kind of feel for it, okay? So I felt for it. Feels good. It's clipped in. So now we're unclipping the hat, taking it off of the station. And then here's the inside. Let me see. Okay. Here's the inside of my hoop. Some of the stabilizers all wonky. You know, you can kind of little flatten it out if you want to. It's all right. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's honestly, it's in there to help the machine move smoother. Not catch anything. I mean, I've seen some people will even do hats with no stabilizer. Wouldn't recommend that for an unstructured hat, but for a structured hat, yeah, maybe. That's up to you. You want to try that, go ahead. But this is how I'm doing it, okay? All right. Trying to think if there's anything else that I need to say before we get over to the machine. I don't think so. And you could even come in here and feel this way if you wanted to. You can see my finger pushing. Everything's lined up correctly. The other thing is, look at your hat straight on. Make sure it looks, the hat doesn't look crooked, okay? We know it's not centered this way. Make sure it doesn't look crooked, and it looks good to me. All right, let's get this one on the machine. Okay, so here we are at the machine. I already have the hat driver installed, as I said, and I have my machine set up for hat. Also, make sure, let me pull you over here. Make sure before you put your hat on that you have this set up for hat, because when you change things, the machine moves. So say, for instance, say we're on the, whatever this is. I think it's a 10 by 10 hoop that comes with this machine, okay? We're in this 10 by 10 hoop that comes with the machine. And now I've popped my hat on the machine, and I'm like, oh, I need to set it up for hats. So I come down here and I click hats. Let me just show you real quick what happens. Let me take you off the tripod and show you what happens when we do that, okay? It's set up for regular embroidery, and if I had popped down the hat, look, I hit I hit the hat, hit okay. Okay, see all that moving? If you had your hat on there, it would have like ripped it off the hoop. You know what I'm saying? So make sure you've already set it for the hat hoop before you put your hat on. I hope that makes sense. Okay. All right, now let's get this hat on. The other thing that we're looking for is on mine anyways, there are 3 clips. Okay, you can't go in straight. You got to turn your hat, come into the machine, and then turn your hat up. Hello, why are you not turning? There we go. Okay, and then you're lining it up. So there's on this hat driver, there's a part that fits into this on the top of the hat. There's this cutout. So when we're putting the hat on and we're turning the hat, we're lining that up, and that'll, when you've got it lined up with that, you know all your clips are going to clip in. But then I listen for all my clips to clip. Look, I'll show you. Okay, so I've got it lined up. Now I push by the clip. So the 2 top clips are here. There was 2 clicks, 3 clicks. I came down and I made sure that there was 3 clips. If you're not sure that all 3 clipped in, you can come and like, okay, I unclipped the bottom, but the top 2 are still clipped in. You can kind of just check. That one I unclipped and reclipped. I like, personally, might just be my OCD, I like to hear that click. Okay, I want to make sure it's clicked. You can also give it a little jiggle. If it's not moving, then you know we're good. Okay, now my machine's already over here at needle 12 because that's the last hat I worked on. But we're going to do a trace. So it's going to go all the way back up to needle 1. So do a trace on whatever machine that you're working with. I'm trying to get it all in here. We might have to go to 0.5. All right, there. So I'm going to come up here, do the trace, just a normal trace, and it's going to move it all over. Now, the other thing that you didn't see me do was clip in to those stabilizer bars the hat itself. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. With structured hats, I typically don't. I leave the stabilizer clip, but I let the hat not clipped in the back, if that makes sense. And if your design fits correctly, you shouldn't see too much movement of hat. A little bit of movement of the hat is okay. All right, but remember, we're not centered, so I'm pulling down my needle 1, and I'm going to use these arrows to center it. And what's nice about having a middle seam is I can see my center. Now, if I don't have a middle seam, I would use my printout. This is the softball one, and my printout has the center line, so I would have already had it where I wanted it, and then I would pull it down. Now, I went and measured this, y'all, and it is 2.5 inches. So I'm gonna have to look at this design before we stitch it out, and hopefully I'm not wrong. Hopefully we can stitch this one out today. But like I said, for my machine, I cannot stitch out anything taller than 2.25, so we'll see. That's a 20 minutes from now problem. Okay, so I've got the needle 1 lined up with that middle seam. Now I'm gonna do another trace. And you see I'm not holding my needle down all the way. Okay, and I can actually go down further. You can kind of see in your box the lowest that it'll let you go, okay? And I like to sometimes try to push those limits. And I have like an old video of me like pushing the limits. That was on the other machine. I haven't done it on this machine because I don't know if they changed it, but the other thing I've noticed is and I'm speaking from experience again, this brim has my designs necessary. Some styles of hats, the design fits in here, but I was running into needle breaks and problems because the brim of the hat was hitting the back of the machine and bending it, and it was messing up. So listen, I run into problems too, okay? So I typically just trust this machine and I don't try to push it outside of its parameters. For hats, you know, if you watch me, I'm going to be pushing all the other limits. For hats, I'm staying in these parameters. It's just not worth the frustration when I'm trying to make it do things it was not intended to do. And like I said, I have another video of me actually pushing the parameters. But that was on the older machine, and on this machine, I just feel like we're just gonna leave it. It's fine. Okay. So I did my trace. Everything looks good. I've already picked my color, which I'm on needle 12. The other thing I will say is this hat, a 7511 needle would be perfectly fine. There would be nothing wrong. It's not a very thick structured hat. I would feel comfortable using a 7511, would be fine. I like to keep 8012 titanium needles on the last 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 on this machine. I just kind of keep them over there. For hat embroidery or thicker, like sometimes if I'm doing like a really thick strap on a backpack or something, I'll use the 8012 sharps. And I think even like an 8012 regular titanium would be fine. It doesn't have to be sharp. I just happen to buy the sharp ones, which I don't even know where I got them from, but I will link some in the description below that I would trust and would be very good quality. So anyways, I'm going to use needle 12 also because I have all my 7511 set up for a different design that I really don't want to move and touch right now because it's a lot of colors. So I'm gonna be using an 8012 today, but with this hat, I think you'd be okay with 7511. If you're doing hats and you're running into a lot of needle breakage, try bumping up to an 8012 needle. I still break an 8012 every now and then, but when I made that switch, I noticed a huge difference and I noticed a lot less needle breaks. So, and now I hardly ever break a needle at all, unless, like I said, the brim was hitting this, or I didn't have it hooped correctly and it hit the metal part in there. That's the only time I've run into them recently, if that makes sense. And then you just unclip it, turn it to pull it out, and there you go. And then you would just unclip everything, drop your clips on the floor, and then just tear out that tearaway, flap your band back up. If you steamed it and you want to hit it with some steam again to just kind of help reform that, you could do that as well, but like these ones don't obviously need it. So there you go. The only other tip I have is a tiny bit, and if I was doing this on a white hat, I would never, because it might bleed, but it's a navy hat. This is not going to show up if it accidentally hits the navy, but I'm just gonna just like a little extra tip. There's a couple spots where that white stabilizer poked up. Probably my tension is maybe a little too tight because I do tend to keep my hat tension a little tighter. You don't have to. If you're doing 3D puff, we're not doing 3D puff today. If we were doing 3D puff, we would want to adjust that tension and make it tighter. We're not doing 3D puff today. That's a whole nother video, y'all. So my tension probably runs a little bit tighter because of 3D puff that I've done in the past. But I wouldn't worry about that too much right now. Okay, so I already have the next one hooped up. I'm gonna pop it on and get another one of these going while I set up my other machine because, like I said, I've already got colors set here for another design, and then I'm already working on the hat, and I've got 12 hats to do, and y'all, talking to you it takes up time sometimes, and I'm like looking at the clock like, am I gonna get 11 hats done before I have to pick up my kids today? They only take I believe it's 6 minutes to stitch out, but still, I gotta get moving. Because a softball hat is like a bonus thing. It's not something I have to do. It's something I want to do. I want to do it for you. I want to do it for my daughter. So we're gonna do that. And I looked at the design again. Sorry, ADHD. So I'm going to keep this machine stitching out the Who's to Freedom ones, and I'm going to work on my 1201 BAi embroidery machine, which is the older version, which is very similar for hats. The only difference that I like off the bat notice, like big difference, would be that the arm that comes out, like that Holoja bobbin, this is much thicker and bigger than it is on this one, which actually this one benefits when you're doing sleeve designs because it's a little bit smaller. It's a great machine. Like I have nothing bad to say about it. This one's more user-friendly, the new version, which is the version that you would be purchasing if you were purchasing a BAi machine now. And if you use the link in my description, you get $200 off, and it helps me out. So if you're in the market, but this is a great machine. But if you've gotten one secondhand, or you already have an older version, the 1201 or 1501, I really have nothing bad to say. It stitches out hats fine. I like to try to teach on the new one because that's the one that most of you are getting if you're newer to embroidery and you're doing it on the BAi. But I also recognize that some of you don't even have a BAi embroidery machine. You're working on something completely different. And that's fine. I'm here for all of you in all walks of your journey. So I am going to, while this one is stitching out another hat, I'm going to take these arms off and put this hat driver on and get ready to do this design. And I did check, and this one is 2.5, like I said, but with this seller, I can't think of her name. Okay, I had to look her up, spunkystitches.com. That's the designer of this design that I'm using today, and I'll have her link in the description below. And this is literally something I found 5 minutes before I got on here, so this is not endorsed or anything. This is literally just, I did a search on Etsy and this is who I found. So you're welcome, Spunky Stitch, if you get some sales from this. So spunkystitches.com. Anyways, I looked, this is a 2.5 design, but she also has a 2-inch. So I've reprinted and I'm going to cut out and get my 2-inch design ready. We're gonna do the 2-inch design because 2.5 inches will be too big. I promise you that. And I'm not about to show you what not to do and do it wrong. So we're gonna do the 2-inch design. I'm gonna do it on the older version, and I gotta get some more hats stitching out. So I will just speed you up and let you listen to some fancy music or whatever while I set this up. Really quick, I'm gonna stop my little speed up to tell you while I'm doing this, I forgot to mention why I don't pull this needle down all the way so it stays. If you're working on the new BAi machine, you know you can pull it down all the way so it stays. Why I don't stitch the hats particularly out is because if this hits any part of the hat, it stops and tells you the design doesn't fit or whatever, and then it like, when I got this machine, it didn't do it. The other one doesn't stay down. This one pops right back up anyways. This machine is a little different where that stays down, and so it has that little feature in it where it stops, and then, but it always touches the needle. It always touches the foot. I can never remember what this is called. It always touches the foot when you're doing this. So when I don't know if there's a sensor in there that feels the pressure of it hitting that foot, but then it stops, and then let me just show you. Okay. So I've got the needle down, and we're gonna do a trace. Let me pull you in. Okay, so we've got the needle down, and I'm holding it down because sometimes it does that cut and come back up. Okay, so now it's going. So the needle is down. Watch what happens. Every time. Every time. It stops. And I get this pattern is outside the frame. Please move it inside. Every time. But it's not. I promise you. And you see me just stitch out one of these. So, anyways. I have to do a snip, and now it is outside the frame. Now look where it put it. Every time I get that message, it puts it way up, whatever. It's recentered it to wherever the needle stopped, and now I've got to remove it back where I had it and recenter it. So I just wanted to point that out. Because it's something that I ran into and caused me frustration and caused me to have to go to, I think it was Ren, because he's just kind of like my go-to. I went to Ren and I was like, what is going on with my machine? Why is it doing this? Every time I do a trace, I'm getting this. Why is it doing this? And I was so frustrated going from the 12-in-1 that I never had that issue with, never did that, to the mirror machine, and it was doing it every time, and I was so frustrated. So I just wanted to point that out. It's a learning curve. We have to learn, and every machine, even though they're the same brand, they've done upgrades to this one, and I absolutely love the things that they've changed and improved on, but it was just something I had to learn. Okay, so when I'm doing a trace for hat, I'm not going to hold it all the way down. I'm just going to kind of like guide it halfway down with my finger and make sure it looks like it's going to fit. And so anyways, I just wanted to point that out because it was something that caused me frustration. Maybe it didn't cause you any frustration. Maybe it's not something you ran into, but I'm just sharing with you the things that I've learned. So that's one of the things that I've learned with this machine. So go back into the speed up. I got to recenter this design before I stitch it out and get the other one ready for the other hat. Okay, so this is the older station, which between you and me, I prefer the station. I miss the station, but they changed it. That's fine. Whatever. I prefer the station. I don't know. It has this, it turns like, I like it. Anywho, all right, so we're going to do the same thing as before. This is a little bit different of a style, but the concept is the same. And again, like I said, I just like the station better. I just like it. Okay, so it's an unstructured hat, but we're still going to pull out the sweatband like we did before. I don't know if I can loosen. Okay, maybe not. There we go. All right. Oh, yeah. Okay, so the same thing, we're just looking at that sweatband, we're pulling it down, and I think I like too that I can see it from this angle. I don't know. And then we're still making sure that our teeth line up, and then this one, see, it has this hook, so I mean, I don't have to worry as much about where it's lining up. It has that hook. This one also has this hook that helps you to line up your center seam. It's not 100% necessary, but that is what that is for. Usually I end up just hanging stuff off of it when I'm not using the station. So anything. Then we just clip it in, and you can look at it, make sure everything is straight, but that's essentially the same. I will say that with this station, I just found it less finicky, but the new version still works great. I do believe that the new version is more user-friendly as far as the machine, as far as the hooping station. Maybe it's because I was using it for so long. I enjoy the old style. All right, let me tape on the design that I just printed out. We go get it. Okay, so I reprinted the 2-inch design, 2-inch tall, and it's like 4 inches wide. So with these machines, you can go very wide, which is why, like, I'm like, it doesn't really matter so much if your design is not centered one way or the other, because you can move a lot back and forth. You can't go up and down. It's 2 1/4. That's it. All right. So we can pin or tape our design, and what's nice with that middle seam is it makes it really easy to line up our center line. Do I have anything close by? Yes, I have some tape. Okay. All right. You can, all right, you can stick a little piece of tape. Okay, so with this one, I do have the printout. The other one, I've been doing so many of them, I just kind of ditched the printout and I just been lining it up and it's been fine. This one, I do have the printout. So we just pop it off and it's ready to go on the machine. Same as before. The process is honestly not that much different, even with a different style of machine. So maybe you're not working on a BAi, maybe your machine is more similar to the older version, or maybe it's more similar to the newer version, but either way, look at that bonus. I'm showing you on both machines, mainly because I need both machines today. All right, same concept. We're popping it on the machine, we're lining it up, clipping it in. All 3 clips. You can double check if you want to. Okay, and then we're gonna do the initial trace. Now when it's in the hat design, it automatically flips your design. If for whatever reason you were stitching it in any other setting, you would want to make sure your design was flipped, but as long as you're in the hat setting, it should automatically. So see, this one automatically pops up. I'm not worried about it. I have to hold it down anyways. Okay, so we are lining this up with that crosshair. I always do a little trim to make sure that it's punctured its hole right where I want it. Okay, and then we're gonna do a trace. Same as before. Ooh, girl, you sound like you need some oil. Okay. Are we so okay? Now we're gonna pick our colors. And I actually have my computer right here. Red, yellow, pink. That is the order in which we are stitching. So, red, yellow, pink. Okay, okay. All right, so you've picked your colors, you've done your trace. We can pull the tape off. So you knew what I'm gonna do. Like I said, sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. I am, because this is such an unstructured hat, I'm gonna pop a couple clips down here, and you could do this while it was on the hat hooping station or whatever, to hold the hat a little bit more stable because it is so unstructured. But I'm gonna do another trace to make sure it's not pulling anything now that I've done that. Does that make sense? Okay, that looks really good. Now you may have noticed a little bit of movement in the hat when it came to the top, but for the most part, there was not a lot of stretching and moving of this hat while it did its trace. Let me pull you in a little bit more so you can see that better. Okay, so I'm gonna hit the trace again. To me, my preference, that's what you want to see. You don't want to see a lot of distorting and moving. Obviously, it's an unstructured hat. Obviously, you're going to see some movement in here. That's going to have to pop back out when it does its trace. But there's not a lot of tugging and pulling and distorting. So we know our design is going to stitch out very well. Okay, so I'm ready to start stitching this. The other thing I wanted to mention is, this is bothering me. I need to trim this. I'm using 7511. This is not a structured hat. There's no reason why your normal needles won't work perfectly fine here. So we're gonna go ahead. It's gonna do its little red stitching first. It looks great, but I'm gonna make a last minute change here. I stopped it before it stitched out the softball because I was gonna have it stitch out pink. And now just seeing the red and the yellow, I'm not liking the pink. Like I was kind of hesitant in the beginning anyways. And this year, and I know I told her, I'm like, I'm not making anything specific to your team because you're on the rec team and it's probably going to change. You're not going to be the Lady Bolts next year. But this year her colors are truly pink and blue. So I was like, maybe some blue. That one's too dark. I'm thinking this one. The red stitching and the pink lettering is going to cross over that a little bit, and there's not enough contrast between the red and the pink. I'm liking this blue. So I'm not even going to change the needle. I just cut out the pink, and I'm just gonna tie in the blue and hit go. And then I did get, while we're talking about thread, I did get a question on my Facebook page because I posted a picture of a softball. Maybe it wasn't my page. I don't know. I got a question somewhere about what color yellow I use. I don't know because when I bought this machine, they threw in a bunch of threads, and I'm not sure what brand they were back then, but any of my threads that are on this yellow spool are from the original bunch that they threw in with the 1201 machine. So this is the color that I like for softball, and I couldn't even tell you what brand it is. It's the one that BAi used to sell, but now they sell the Richwood thread, and there's probably one similar, but I just don't know. Okay, so that's 6. Is it 6? Yes, 6. So we're just pulling it through and rethreading it, and then we're gonna start. But so far, oh my goodness, it's looking so cute. She's gonna be so surprised. She saw I was making a softball sweatshirt for a customer, and she's like, "Ooh, mama, is this for me?" No, girl. No, I gotta work. Okay. Okay, stop. I'm so glad I made that change. The blue is super cute. Okay, so we unclip everything. There's a few extra clips in here because I clipped the hat too. Oh my goodness. She's gonna be tickled. Okay. I can't wait to see her expression. All right. It's so cute. Let's just take this tag off. I don't know why I even kept it on there. Okay. What do you think? Is it perfect? So this is a hat design that you can get yourself from Etsy, so don't feel intimidated. This is an unstructured hat from Walmart. You can do this too. So I hope that you enjoyed this video today. I hope that you learned something today. Please feel free to come to me with any questions that you have. Unfortunately, there's not much I can do for you in troubleshooting. If you are running into some issues that aren't things that I covered today, you may want to reach out to whoever you bought your machine from. Maybe you don't have a BAi Embroidery machine. Maybe you've bought your machine from one of the other companies. I would reach out to them for their tech support. If you do have a BAi Embroidery machine, I would recommend Luke Wren, okay? And if you ask me for his information, I can send you his Facebook page or whatever, or you can get in one of the BAi Embroidery groups and search Luke Wren, and you can get in there and ask him. So if you're running into a specific problem, like, hey, I'm in the middle of stitching this hat out and it's not stitching out right, I would reach out to him. Unfortunately, again, they're in China, so be respectful, okay? Don't message them at 12 o'clock in the afternoon and expect to get an answer within an hour. They're sleeping. You wouldn't appreciate someone contacting you at 4 a.m. and expecting you to wake up and get right into work and answer your questions. So be respectful. And I do know that BAi is working on getting some technicians in America and training some technicians in America. And maybe you're not in America. I don't, wherever you're from, but I can only speak from where I'm at. And so that's kind of been one of the things with BAi too, is people are like, well, there's no help. There's help. You just have to know how to find it and how to get it. But anyways, I have a few more hats that I need to hurry up and stitch out before I have to get my kids today. It's already noon, so I've got about another hour, so I should be able to finish out the rest of the hats before I have to bake them up. So thank you again for coming and joining me in this tutorial on how to do hats. Just remember, take your time, breathe. It's okay. You can do this. I know that hats can be a challenge sometimes, but start with cheap hats. I think the other thing too is if you're messing up on an expensive hat, that adds a level of frustration, because it's like, I don't want to buy another $12 hat and I just messed up 5 $12 hats. That all adds up. That's all money. Get yourself some cheap hats. My goodness. Like, I'm just speaking from things that I'm seeing in groups and things that people complain about. And I'm like, what are you thinking? So get some cheap hats. Do your practice. Just start with simple, and work your way up. And definitely keep your designs in the parameters of what your machine can handle. So I wish you all the best in your embroidery journey. And if you're not already, jump on over to Facebook, follow me on JE-Embroidery Crew, and share with me pictures of your hats. I want to see. I know, I would love to hear things in the comments on YouTube, but we can't share pictures. So jump over there. I want to see pictures of your hats that you're accomplishing. If you try one of these designs from Etsy, post a picture. I want to see it. I'd love to see it. So the link for that page is also in the description, so you can check that out, and I will have a few different hats linked in the description as well. So I am wishing you all of the best. I know that you can do this. I'm cheering you on. You can accomplish hats, and I will see you all in the next video.